Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast. I have a very special guest back on the show. I have Sylvia Scott of Girls C.E.O Connection. Sylvia, always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you, Gresh. I'm excited to be here. I'm always excited to be talking to you. And I'm especially excited this time because this is Women's Entrepreneurship Month. And my book is coming out.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely a action-packed month, to say the least. There's so many great things that I know that you do for women entrepreneurs, and of course your book and all the awesome things that we get to cover a little bit on the show. And before we do that, of course, I want to read a little bit more about Sylvia so you can hear about some of those awesome things. And Sylvia R.J. Scott has dedicated her career to empowering up-and-coming female professionals all over the world. She is the founder of Girls C.E.O Connection and a creator of numerous educational initiatives designed to teach, motivate, and prepare young women for successful entrepreneurial careers. Through her book, Realizing a Vision, Your Toolkit for Success, Words of Wisdom for Young Female Entrepreneurs, mentoring programs, presentations, and events, Sylvia shares stories, advice, and skill-building pearls women everywhere can use to build their futures. A natural-born connector with a keen talent for bringing out the best in others, Sylvia was named one of DataBird's Business Journal's most inspiring female entrepreneurs in 2019, and she served as an e-mentor with the Institute for Economic Empowerment in Kabul, Afghanistan, and as a virtual business consultant for Coachella's Women's Business Center in California. And of course, she was a guest on episode number 1209 of our podcast as well, too. So Sylvia, love having you back on the show. Are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
I really am. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, let's do it then. So to kind of kick everything off, I wanted to hear a little bit more about what I call your CEO story. I know I touched on it, but hear a little bit more about what you've been able to do and what you have definitely packed in your book as well.
Okay, the idea actually came for self-empowering young women back in 1997, but I turned it into entrepreneurship after I had been in 2003 when I was conference manager for the Women's Leadership Exchange, and I saw how dynamic and how strong women entrepreneurs were, and the self-confidence they had. And I could see that in young women, and that by being an entrepreneur, that really made a difference in the young women that I met. So I thought the great thing is I started with a conference, which was fine. But then after we did a couple of them and the girls wanted more, and I developed a team board, we decided to change it from just not only doing conferences, but doing mentoring, coaching, interviewing women, or now it's younger women entrepreneurs on YouTube, putting them on the website so girls can hear what they have to say about starting and growing their businesses. And then we turn those into podcasts. And I have a team board of which I'm looking for new young women ambassadors now because the others have graduated from high school, that are in college. And it's always great to have them. In fact, I had a great editorial team of girls from Chicago that helped edit the book, Realizing a Vision, Your Toolkit for Success. And so they really got in helping over 2 years actually of working with me on the book. I had girls in California that helped with it. So what I've done with the business is try to get as many young females that are interested in entrepreneurship or involved in entrepreneurship now, involved into what they would like to learn or see expand on. And we're going to be doing a little bit more with coaching on communication skills. So that's where we're headed. And now that the pandemic is over with, I'm hoping to get back to doing live conferences because you know how much teenagers don't like Zoom. Zoom conference is not for teenagers. So I want to get back to the in real life conferences that we do at a university that is appealing, or you want the girls to go to if they want to go to college. So hopefully in the next couple of takes, it's a good 3 or 4 months to plan it, get a new conference going. And that's where we bring in entrepreneurs that girls get a chance to meet, that they become role models, but we talk about specific topics, all of the soft skills, and that's what the book is about, soft skills that make women famous. And that's what they've told me. They're soft skills. They may have a great business plan, know how to negotiate, they know how to watch their financials, but I'll tell you something, Gresham, especially for women, if you don't have your soft skills down, that can throw you totally off. You cannot act like a man in business when you're a woman entrepreneur. There's skills that you need to develop that will take your business further than you ever expected, as well as yourself and the community.
Yeah, I love that you added in that last part, because I think one of the big things about, obviously we're trying to grow, expand, and build our businesses, but we sometimes forget like how much we grow and expand as a result of putting so much into the things that we do. And I love, of course, like all the, really great content, information, knowledge, awareness, so many different words that can go down the list that you're doing to kind of help out these young women. But I almost feel like you're creating, that community so that you can go a lot farther as a young woman. And I think even probably, I imagine the people that are involved with the organization as well too are able to get so much from it as well.
Yes, I hope so.
Yes.
And I love keeping up and watching what the girls are doing. Once they leave high school, then those that, did they continue with their businesses, which many of them do. Some of them go on to college. But watching the girls that have been young ambassadors in college. Actually, I have one that's on my adult advisory board. And so it's great to see, it's really great to see how she's matured after being involved with the organization. And even when she told me what she had learned, I just was amazed at the difference in from when she was in high school and then in college when she went to Brown, and now as a young adult working in LA. So it's really fascinating to me, and I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. To see that growth in that journey. I think so many times, especially, you hear it a lot via social media, you hear kind of like those snapshots of life and snapshots of where people are, but you don't really see that journey. So I love, kind of hearing, the mentorship and seeing that, transition, the journey that the young woman has gone on to now be, mentoring and doing all those things involved with the organization. So I wanted to drill down a little bit more into your book. I know we touched on a little bit. I think, you mentioned some of the things that were there. Could you tell us a little bit more on what we can find in your book and all the awesomeness that you have there?
Okay, so the book has 10 chapters, and it's broken down to starting with your passion and the importance of passion, and taking your passion and turning it into a business. And some of the examples I use are girls that did take their passion, turned it into a business. They didn't let somebody change it. They didn't let somebody, say, well, that's nice, but this is what I think you should be doing. And then there's a couple of stories about girls that came up, they had a great passion, but then they weren't able to take that, say, exact passion, say to be a ballet dancer, that exact passion because of something that happened. So what could they take as far as a passion for ballet and turn it into a business? And one of them, for example, came out being a choreographer, starting a business as a choreographer. Another one was actually take your love for the ballet and all that you know and do classes with younger girls, teaching them with videos what the ballets mean and do a class on it, or take them to the ballet, but something where you take that love and you can monetize it. So those are just a couple of examples of what, because someone couldn't be the ballet dancer, they still love ballet. So how could they take that love and turn it into a business? So that's the passion. Then we have your vision, where I actually go in and show how to make a vision board. And we have some illustrations of them, and I give us steps on how to make your vision board. And I'll tell you, that's very important, because when you write down your vision and then you make a picture board or a collage out of it, and you can see, and we're set it up where you can change some of the pictures on it as time goes on, it ingrains in your mind starts getting set on what you want. And it's amazing how it can come out. So, and when you write it down and you look at it and you put your vision where you can see it all the time. I talked about Anna Rivas, who's now a photographer. She's in Southern California. She, as a young girl, I met her when she was in 8th grade, at a conference. She snuck in saying she was in 9th grade. She was actually in 8th grade. And she wanted
persistence. I love it.
I found her in the ladies. We were in the ladies' room talking, and I thought, she's too young to be here. But I just let go. And she found mentors at the conference. because she was bound and determined to have a business making hair accessories. And then she decided she wanted to start a magazine in high school. She lived in LA, and she put up her vision and her vision map for a magazine and the whole process. She started the fashion club, she started a fashion magazine, and she accomplished everything before she had put down the time to accomplish the goals. And she realized through all of that and her visions that she really wanted to be a photographer and go into graphics. And now I think she's probably 23 or 24. She's a professional photographer in LA. And so it's pretty amazing to see how just having her vision and writing it out. She said now she writes it in books. She keeps a journal of her visions. So we go through visioning, and then the next is branding and how you brand yourself, how you come across to people. It's not about fashion, which I had a group of high school girls think I was talking about fashion. I said, no, it's how you appear to other people and what you're wearing, how you act, your persona, and how you brand yourself, where people will say, well, she's not an entrepreneur. Or, they look at her and say, of course she's a jewelry designer. Look at how she's dressed. Of course she's this, that's, you fit right into it. And how you act, your whole attitude. So there's your branding. You're communicating for success, your communication skills online as well. You're communicating on social media, how to use the social media, but also how to communicate by email and how to communicate, how you really do need to know your grammar. I mean, you really, whether you like it or not, email is going to be around, and people in business want to use email more than they do texting, whether you like it or not. So you need to write your email as well as you would write a letter, and without using text symbols all the time. So we have communicating, developing the leadership within. Some girls are afraid to be leaders. They're afraid of what their friends are going to think about them as an entrepreneur leading an organization. And it's talking about developing that leadership within and ignoring what other people are saying. And in every chapter, I give examples of real life women or young women. Some of them are older, some of them are younger, like Stacey Ferreira, who's probably 28 and had 4 businesses now. Yes. Another young woman who used to be called the Mark Zuckerberg, female Mark Zuckerberg. She and her brother sold Meet Me, or my yearbook, for millions of dollars. And she ended up going to work for the company that bought it, running their whole global marketing program. And so she's still a co-founder of the business, but now doing other aspects. I talk about them, but we talk about how the young women are involved in still what they're doing with business, and their own businesses are expanded on it. But developing the leadership within and not being afraid. Then we have mastering your mind, which I love, mastering your mind, because when I wrote the chapter, I thought, oh, I need to remember some of these things. And it just happened to me a couple of weeks ago. Something really ticked me off in a business situation. And I thought, okay, back off. Remember what you wrote in the book about keeping your cool and not going off and not blaming. And so I have a chapter on mastering your mind, because you can't master your mind, you can't master your business or your life.
Right.
And as I wrote that chapter about not losing your temper, stepping back and thinking, what's going on? It's not always you. Don't think you're being disrespected. Maybe you are, but it's that other person's problem. Just step back, literally take a deep breath. Don't send any emails out. Don't make any phone calls and leave messages. And it's things that we all need to remember at times, but boy, it really hit me. In fact, going over the book reminds me, they're good lessons to keep going. But too many girls, like you write an email at night, you're upset with somebody because of something they did, and then you hit that send button, and the next day you realize that wasn't a good idea. And maybe you shouldn't have said anything at all, or it may have been the other person's got a bad day and they're taking it out on you. So we have that. We have building your team, your success team, meaning getting your mentors and coaching. And there's a difference between being a mentor and a coach. The mentor is a guide. A coach is teaching you, giving you assignments to become better at something, like your communication skills. But mentoring, they're a guide, but it doesn't mean they're giving you, they may give you advice, but they're just not saying you have to do this.
Right.
You coaching, it's like when you're coaching for tennis or any game, they're giving you something to change your skill to make it better. But mentoring, they could say, well, you might look at it this way, or you might think about it this way. And, you know, you might have said something more like this, but it doesn't mean. When I was mentoring women in Afghanistan with their businesses, I wasn't really a coach. I wasn't telling them what to do. We would look at their plan, and the same when I do it for Coachella Women's Valley Business Center. You look at the plan and say, well, why don't you think about it this way? Have you thought about it this way? You know, and let them make their own decisions. And there's a difference. And mentors are free, coaching you pay for. So we go through that. But the fact of having a mentor your whole life makes a difference. And your mentors are going to change. It may be your parents, but then your parents will say, you know what, you're going beyond my skill set. You know, you're going beyond what advice I can give you. I think it's time for you to get a professional somebody else in the business. So, and I've used mentors. I've used our advisory board for mentoring. I just have to learn not to repeat everything they say to me sometimes.
Right.
So those are some of the topics that are, building your team and being kind and using the soft skills, which now it's coming out more and more. Like here are the books being published, and on LinkedIn I see people bringing it out, and I'm thinking it's all in my book. The soft skills: being kind, being nice. That doesn't mean you're going to walk on. Being kind, being nice, having empathy for other people. Don't just jump on everybody. Like I said, it's not about you. It could be their problem or their issues. So those are some of the topics that are in the book. And I always use examples. And I have not games. Yeah, I do. Question and answer.
Right.
You used to find in Glamour magazine, they'd have these quizzes. And so I have them in the book. Quizzes throughout the book where the girls can do it with a friend, they can do it just with themselves, and then illustrations by a woman from England. Her company is Fall into London, and Eleni did illustrations of different topics of what was going on that coincide right with the chapter, and using it with teenage girls.
Yeah, I love that. And especially your ability, and it might even be part of the secret sauce, I guess, of the book, is being able to kind of blend each of those aspects, because it's not just the the words of wisdom, the nuggets, as I like to call them, but you also have the activities. It sounds like you have real stories. So it's not just you saying these things, it actually has things that have manifested itself in interactions that you've had or been able to do. It sounds like you've been able to kind of blend all of those aspects into the book, so that people can, of course, the young women can, of course, hit the ground running.
Right, that's it. Because I interviewed and interviewed some of the women entrepreneurs, and then the women that started the alternative hair color company, Manic Panic. The crazy colors back in the punk days of the 70s are still in business, and they come up with, they're in the story about, being persistent and not giving up and just keeping moving forward. So there's those like with Stacy and Catherine and some girls that started nonprofits to help African girls be educated. Just, what they did to do it, but can you imagine being in high school and you're the boss of college women? And that's what some of one girl was doing when she was raising money to educate girls in Africa. buy hair accessories. So she had college girls that would come help make the accessories and then give her ideas for it as well. So yes, it's real life people involved in it. And you may not know their real name, but then some of them I do use their real name. Some of them I do and some of them I don't.
Right. That makes sense. No, I love how you've been able to kind of blend, all that together, all that value and knowledge, because I think the saying is, in order to see further, you have to stand on the shoulders of giants, and to be able to have this book that compiles all that knowledge, information, experience is definitely something, the young women, and I think a lot of people outside of being young women as well too, will be able to kind of benefit tremendously from. And so I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I want to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
I think now, after writing the book, and I'm looking at everything that I put in it, it's making me really look at how I act, how I respond. And by taking those nuggets out of the book and applying it to myself, that's really made a difference. As well as realizing, you always say you can't do it by yourself. I think too many women try to do things by themselves. Well, this is what I learned and what I will hold on to. I had a teen editorial board, the girls from Chicago, and having them involved and listening to them. And this is what I've really gotten into more, that I'd like to say, is listening more and hearing what other people have to say and their input, and asking more questions and keeping precise notes. That's making me more efficient. And I've just run into that again too. It's like I have to pay attention and listen and not let my mind wander, and take notes and then ask more questions, so that I know that I'm on top of things. And that means I have less problems with having to run back and look at my emails and say, wait, somebody said this, wait. Stop wasting time, and putting it all in a notebook now. And I learned this from writing the book, but listening to what the girls had to say and other people now, and taking precise notes, that's keeping me to be more productive. And I would say that for anybody: listen, and ask.
Yeah, I love that, those hacks, just because so many times we can fall in love with the things that we create, whether it be books or products or services, but it's so important to kind of listen and remember why we're ultimately doing what we're doing. Is often to be able to serve a community. So it's so important to listen, to ask questions, drill down more, so that we can, of course, be of service as best as possible. And so I wanted to ask you now for what I call a CEO nugget. So this is a little bit more of a word of wisdom or piece of advice. I would love if it's something, a chapter, or maybe your top nugget that you feel like you have written in your book that we can all learn from, or even young women can learn from. But do you have a CEO nugget that would be extremely impactful that you've covered in your book?
I think it's on mastering your mind. That to me, I think, is so key anymore, because we have so much stuff going on and so many things happening on social media that aren't so great. People cutting each other down, people doing this, doing that. But thinking to myself, just mastering what's happening in my mind and not taking everything so personal, and stepping back from like what's happened on social media, what's happening around the world, and not taking everything so personal, because it's not your fault. A lot of these things just aren't your fault. They're not my fault. And I had finally learned that it's not my fault all the time. And so by writing the book, but leaning at mastering your mind and not jumping off the edge all at once because somebody says something to me that hits me the wrong way. Boy, I used to just jump at everything. And now it's just step back and think, okay, what does this mean? Or should I even care about it? Maybe it's just there, it's taking my mind away from something I should be paying attention to. And so mastering your mind is something I think is really, really important.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much in sharing that. And then even as you talked about with the hack and how so many times when we create stuff, obviously we create it to serve people, but sometimes it serves us more than it ends up serving others. So I love that mastering the mind piece because I feel like it's something that's on a higher level glossed over when we're talking about business or any aspect of life, honestly, where we're so much into the how do you do this, or where do I, how many times do I post on social media, or when should I launch, and all those kind of tactical things that we forget about how much our mind influences our success and where we are in life. And if we don't take care of that, we don't master that, then we could of course be kind of not setting ourselves as much as possible for success.
That's right. Yeah, it makes a big difference. And I will say, mastering your mind also means you just don't sit at your computer 24 hours a day. Your mind gets cleaned up and cleared up when you go take a walk, when you go exercise, when you eat right, you drink plenty of liquids. So there's a lot to mastering your mind. And that's something else I've learned. You just can't, you just got to get up and walk away from that computer. Get up and walk away from that stuff. Get away from your phone. Go exercise, whether it's at the gym or just walking around outside, playing tennis, whatever it is. Just go out and do it. And take your eyes off the computer, your mind off of it. And you'd be surprised when you do that and just start thinking about how your mind will clear up and you'll get an answer at a stoplight, you know, and it's amazing that you just get away from it. So don't just get so locked into it. And that's why I feel sorry for the girls in college, in high school, that were stuck on Zoom all the time.
Right.
When you're in class, you can get up and walk around. In Zoom, you're kind of stuck. So I'm glad to see we're kind of getting back to normal in those things. And why I'd never
Yeah.
do a conference on Zoom for teenage girls. But
Yeah,
yes,
they're definitely,
definitely.
yeah, they're definitely a challenge, and teenage girls or anybody in between, to have to sit there and be present to that square, and it becomes more of a challenge to be able to do that. But I love that you mentioned, that other aspect of mastering your mind, because I think so many times we forget about the self-care, filling up your cup, all
Right.
those things, and how that manifests itself and how it affects your mind. We think so many times like, I have this problem that I'm trying to solve, so I'm going to spend hour after hour after hour, day after day after day to find that solution. But often that solution comes when, like you said, you're sitting at a stoplight, or maybe you're taking a shower, you're walking the dog, whatever those things happen, that you might do that actually are taking you away. It becomes almost like its own hack, because it allows you to sometimes find that solution because you clear the airwaves so that you can ultimately be able to find what ultimately is the solution.
Right. Very true. Yes.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So I wanted to ask you now my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. But from the Girls Connection CEO founder, I wanted to ask you, what does being a CEO mean to you, Sylvia?
Um, Engage, empower, encourage, and motivate others to accomplish the vision for your business or the vision for themselves or your vision yourself. But then also, it means independence and responsibility. And I think what goes along with the engaging and the empowering, but then with the responsibility, is when you look at your team as a CEO, instead of saying, oh, I need another person for this, or we need this, or we need that, look within your team and see what nuggets are there. What hidden gems are in your team members? And when you find those, develop it, motivate it within your team members before you go to the outside, because chances are there's people there that have the talents and the skills that you need. You just haven't seen them yet. And being a CEO means to find them and bring them out and help them develop them. And that way you still have your team, but they're expanding into new areas. So that's one thing that I think of being a CEO, and creating that environment where you can find that where they can learn and where they can grow together, no matter how long they've been together. But finding those little hidden gems of expertise in your team members, and then the environment to help it grow. That's, to me, is being a CEO.
Awesome. I love that definition. I love I'm going to call them the 3 E's: engaged, empowered, and encouraged that you mentioned, because it's just so powerful to do that. But I think one of the big things, one of the nuggets that you provided as well too, is so many times when we're looking for answers, we're looking for, new ways to maybe even tackle a problem or whatever that might be. We're often looking like very far over the horizon. We're looking, who do we have to hire, or what new tool do we have to bring in? Sometimes it's looking within and seeing what is maybe quote unquote untapped potential that we have within ourselves or the people on our team. So I think that's such a powerful nugget, and thing that often we will forget as, a leader, a CEO, entrepreneur, business owner, is being able to also see the opportunity, see the potential sometimes within the people that are around us.
That's very true. And you just don't
Awesome.
overlook them.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Sylvia, truly appreciate that definition. Of course, I appreciate your time even more. So what I wanted to do now was pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional that you can let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best people can get a hold of you, find out about the organization, get a copy of the book, find out about all the awesome things that you're working on.
First of all, the book will be on Amazon. And I will put it on, the link to Amazon will also be on the on our website, Girls C.E.O Connection.com. There's a page about realizing a vision. There's a page on the book. In fact, right now it's got a couple of segment chapters up there, and then an acknowledgement page for people that have been involved with the book. But when I get the Amazon link, then I'll put it in the book, in the website page as well. And that's where you'll be able to find it. And the Girls CEO Connection is https www.girlsceoconnection.com. And we're on Instagram, Facebook group, Pinterest. I'm going to start doing more. Well, we've got several videos and doing more videos. So one thing, if you know a young entrepreneur, a young woman entrepreneur that you would like me to know about, please send me an email at sylvia@girlsceoconnection.com and send me their website. And even if it's you, go ahead and do that, because I'm looking for you, more young women entrepreneurs to interview. They go on YouTube, they go on our website video page, and we turn it into a podcast. A lot of times I'll do blog posts on it, but it's a great way for others to learn from them. I had my next one. I had a girl that was there. She's had her business for over 10 years on bowling. She started in 8th or 9th grade, and she's 28 or 29 now. Then we've got a young gardener coming in from Toronto, talking about the different types of tomatoes that she's growing and her business with that. So it runs the gamut. It can be products, services, anything. Just shoot me an email, send me a link, and let me see what's going on. And the more young women entrepreneurs that I can highlight, that we can learn from, the more girls that will want to become entrepreneurs. And that's what I'm looking for. And I do want to say that I'm going to start mentoring for the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, which they happen to have a chapter here in Grand Junction. I've never lived someplace where they had a chapter, so I'm excited about that.
Nice. Very, very exciting. No, I definitely appreciate all the awesome work that you're doing. Obviously, the time that you took today. We will have the links and information in the show notes. But one of the key words that kind of popped out to me that you said earlier was environment. And I love how you're creating that environment so that the women entrepreneurs, the young women entrepreneurs, all the people that are involved with the organization as well too, can be successful and have that environment of success. Because I think so many times realizing a vision is about sometimes hearing that it is even a possibility. So I love that you created that environment and continue to do that in so many different ways. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gresham. I really appreciate being on the show today, as always. But this is especially great with the Women's Entrepreneurship Month.
Yes, absolutely. I agree